We go. Hi, friends. Welcome, welcome. Happy spring. I'm so excited that you're here with me today because I have a special guest today uh, to help us talk about a very important topic. Muscle tension dysphonia is something that every voice teacher and coach should have some familiarity with, because if you're doing it as your job, it's almost for sure that this is going to show up in your studio sooner or later, if it hasn't already. I am Meredith Colby, and I can't find my little slides that I made. I'm going to do this week. There it is. Whew. Okay. I'm Meredith Colby, and I support voice teachers to create confident teaching of popular styles. I'm the author of Money Notes, How to Sing High, Loud, Healthy, and Forever, which introduces Neuro vocal method, a way to use brain science to teach healthy technique for people who sing into microphones or who want to sing into microphones. My freebie today is a link to a terrific video that Karen has made for you, and I already sent to one of my students who is a professional speaker, and your students, she's made for you and your students, there we go, to find your optimal speaking pitch. So important to vocal health. Karen is all about the vocal health. Put Karen in the comments, and the NeuroVocal bot will send you that link. I hope. It should. It's supposed to. I have to do a really quick class promo because I have to say this every week until June. But the reason is good. Elspeth is here. Hi, Elspeth. Because I want you to get the most from my class. So I'm starting a new class in June. It is the second and final NeuroVocal certification class of 2021. And if you sign up before May 30th, you will get all kinds of good extras, goodie extras. So go to my site. Wait, over here. My website. There is a tab, your tab. It says voice teachers right on there. And it says NeuroVocal certification, and you'll get all the skinny on that page. I hope you will share your thoughts and comments today. If something gives you a takeaway, put that, hashtag that, in the comments. Hearts and thumbs are always appreciated. I know I say this to you every week, but I want you to help me make Facebook like me better, because Facebook rules the world. Anyway, that might be an all-time first of quick get to the point, because I'm so excited to have Karen here today. I'm going to introduce Karen. I have to tell you, I had to carve her bio down a little bit, because her full bio is like the bio of 3 people. Like, how do you even do this in one lifetime? So this is really the short version of Karen's bio. Karen Sussman is the director of the, wait, hold on. There we go. Karen Sussman is the director of the Professional Voice Care Center on Long Island in New York. Karen has been a licensed speech pathologist, voice therapist, and speech and singing specialist since 1981. She has trained thousands of people who use their voices professionally, in business, and in the arts. She also has over 1,200 stage performances on her resume, along with lectures and presentations, corporate and educational. She has written a book. She has written journal articles. She is a member of VASTA and NATS, and she is a certified VoiceWorks instructor. And then in all of her spare time, she makes videos for her YouTube channel, the Professional Voice Care Center YouTube channel, and publishes a newsletter to help educate voice pros like us, as well as voice users in general. Her website is provoicecare.net, which I believe will be hanging over her head as we talk to her. You will see it up there in the corner. And it is there that you can join her mailing list because she actually sends interesting emails with valuable information. Go figure. Anyway, so you can also see her whole entire bio there, which is even more impressive than all the stuff that I just said. Anyway, welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Meredith.
Hold
I
on.
am so. Oh,
Wait.
am I on?
Let me make sure you're on here. Wait. Oh, wait. I have to go to the right. Wait. Okay. We're going to go here. Sorry. Interview mode. Yeah. There we go. There's your logo. Now let's put you in there. And you're not going in there. How about this? There she is.
There. Yes. Oh my
Sooner
goodness.
or later.
Thank you.
Sooner or later, Karen. Lordy.
What
Okay.
an intro. Thank
Here we
you,
are.
Meredith.
Here we are.
Thank
Okay.
you so much for inviting me today. You know, I'm still trying to remember how we found each other, who found whom online, but it was a mutual admiration society from day one. I have, the more I delve into your neurovocal method, the more it's helping my voice students. I tell them about their lizard brains, and I tell them that, you know, all of us who were trained by classical teachers have a little disadvantage when we're trying to learn to make these crazy animal noises and not try to sound pretty. And some rebel, but the ones who listen and get it, you see this big light bulb over their heads and they go, I got it. So thank you for that, because that is revolutionizing how we teach non-classical singing style.
Yeah, they're at the Pro Voice Center, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're getting it.
It's fascinating. I mean, the more you dig in, the more interesting it is, I think, personally.
Yep.
But I'm a little prejudiced. But I'm really glad that you are here today, and that you are willing to talk to us about this, because honestly, I have wanted to do a broadcast about this issue for a really long time, but first of all, I'm not qualified. And I realized as I read more about it that, I mean, I actually made a blog post about this, but as I was making the blog post about it, I realized that I didn't know a lot. So I thought having you come on, because you know everything, would be great. So Karen, can we just start? I'm just going to ask you the questions. They may seem kind of really simple and definitely below your pay grade, but I'm going to ask them anyway. Okay.
It's all good.
So would you start with just talking about what is muscle tension dysphonia? Would you just tell us what it is?
Absolutely. Muscle tension dysphonia has become the most popular diagnosis that walks into, or virtually walks into, my office, especially among the professional voice users. So I would say every time I take out a report from a doctor about a patient, what does this person have? Muscle tension dysphonia. I'm seeing it more and more. And what is it? It's a change in the way your voice feels or sounds, kind of because you feel all this tension in the voice box, the larynx, around the voice box. Sometimes it's back here, sometimes it's into the chest or up into the jaw. But it's this feeling that something does not feel right. It's tense, it's tight. They'll tell me it's constricted or it's painful, to the point where some of my teacher clients had to take a leave of absence. And the funny thing about muscle tension dysphonia, we call it two disorders in one, because we remember that commercial, right? Because it can be a primary problem. So primary muscle tension dysphonia, there's nothing wrong, structurally wrong with the vocal cords, but there's tension in reaction to something else. Let's say a person had a cold, there was some environmental irritation, or of course, not that any of our students would ever have this, but stress. Okay. But in the case of primary muscle tension dysphonia, there's no disorder of the vocal cord. It's not damaged. But then there's secondary muscle tension dysphonia in response to a problem. So let's say the vocal cord is weak, it's thinned. I think you did a wonderful episode of this live regarding the aging voice. And in some aging voices, the vocal cord's thin. Well, now my little vocal cord brains say, muscles, we're going to have to work harder to squeeze those poor little thinned or bowed vocal cords together. And now I end up with a case of muscle tension dysphonia in response to that problem. So that's how it's kind of two disorders in one. But it all seems to result in pain. I mean, we could talk about all the different signs and symptoms that a voice teacher might see, but bottom line is it just doesn't feel right.
Okay, quick. I do want to talk about those signs and symptoms because that's what we really need as voice teachers. But just quick question. You said just now, you said something like stress or a cold can bring this on. That's crazy. And if that happens, so let's say I get a cold and then I'm feeling some pain, and you also indicated the back of the neck and the chest. So I'm feeling this unusual or unfamiliar pain that I haven't had before, post cold, post stress or whatever. Is that can I is that something that is going to go away by itself because it came on the way it did, or is that
Okay.
something that I really need to look at right away?
Okay. Well, the answer is hopefully you wouldn't have to look at it at all because I would surmise that you wouldn't change your technique just because you have a cold. In fact, you would ease up on your voice production, perhaps not do as many gigs. Remember when we used to do live gigs? Let's
Yeah.
not go there right now. It's too depressing. But um, in other words, you would take it easy. You would conserve your voice. But let's say someone didn't. They gave just as many lectures or went into the recording studio and sang full out just as many hours while they had this cold, this respiratory infection. Well, when you have a respiratory infection, everything gets a little swollen and irritated. So now they're learning to sing on swollen, irritated vocal cords. And what happens? Those little voice muscle brains go, oh, let's work harder to force those swollen vocal cords together. Now the cold may go away, but those little forcing muscles, they forgot to stop forcing. They don't get it. So the answer would be yes, you could have a problem that would last and you'd have to get treatment for it if you weren't sure what to do, which would be conserve, don't force, don't, overdo. In fact, pull away from what you're doing and take it easy, get healthy, increase your fluids, increase your steaming, or however you increase your hydration, get better, and then use your same technique when you're well again. Don't learn to force.
So our non-professionals are going to be the ones who are going to be more likely to do that, or someone who's a professional singer but hasn't learned how to take care of their voice
Correct. They
generally.
overdo. And so a lot of times people will come in at the first visit and say, well, I don't know, I had this cold. And my voice never really came back. Well, the cold is gone. It's not the cold anymore. It's these compensatory patterns of forcing and straining that the muscles have taken up in response to that original problem. So now muscle tension dysphonia becomes the secondary problem, probably.
It sounds like somebody might not always be aware of the tension part of muscle tension dysphonia. They might not always experience it as pain or tension. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. So maybe we should launch into what some of the voice teachers might look for or become aware of if the student complains of pain or if they don't. Would that be a good time to jump into that?
Perfect. Fabulous. Love it.
All right. So, for instance, yes, people can come in to your studio or my studio/office and say, I have this pain over here, or it's pulling on the side of my neck, or I feel tension, constriction. Okay, so that is a very common complaint, but it could also be my tone isn't clear. I feel hoarse, or my tone is veiled, like somebody threw a gauze over it. Um, I feel strain, or my voice gets tired after only singing one song. I used to be able to get through a whole concert. So this loss of vocal stamina, fatigue comes in way too fast. Um, my voice is breaking. I go from my mid range, I go from my high range, and it's just not coming out the way it used to. Or I lost my upper range altogether. That is a common complaint. Um, I have to clear my throat all the time. I feel like there's mucus in there, or it's just becoming a habit and I clear my voice all the time, just thinking maybe I can get my voice out that way. Or this is a pretty common one. I feel a lump in my throat and I clear and I drink water, and 2 minutes later, the lump is back. So those are myriad symptoms besides just pain, even though that is a popular complaint or constriction. Many other signs and symptoms of these of this type can be signs of muscle tension dysphonia as well.
That's a lot of symptoms. And many
Yep.
of the symptoms you just described also describe menopause voice.
Right. Because sometimes in the aging male, the vocal cords get thinner. In the aging female, they can swell. It's another little disparity among the sexes, as it were. So we have to deal with that. So yeah, our voices can drop. We're having difficulty negotiating or even getting to our high range. And we end up straining as a result. I mean, I know I went through that way back then. So yeah. Did I lose the sound? Oh,
Sorry about that. I just wanted
there we go.
to share this comment, and I'm sorry. It won't go. Oh, darn it, darn it, darn it. Well, let's see if it. Oh, there we go. Now it'll do it. Okay, so Heather said I had a student come to me 1.5 months ago with these symptoms, and it led me to MTD. Thanks for hosting this today. And so if Heather, so Heather is a wise voice teacher. So if she was led to MTD, I'm guessing she probably had the sense to get a diagnosis from a professional. How do we know when to do that? And I mean, if
Okay.
those symptoms occur, do we wait and see if they're going to go away by themselves? Do we get thee to a speech language pathologist right away or an otolaryngologist? What should we do?
Okay. So my rule of thumb is usually 1 to 2 weeks of an unexplained problem. So let's say hoarseness, loss of range, discomfort. Unexplained meaning I didn't just have a cold 2 days ago, something that lingers more than a week or two. That I would get thee to a laryngologist, an otolaryngologist, or a fellowship trained laryngologist, an ENT who has that additional year of fellowship training under a voice doctor. That would be my first step to see what's wrong. And then, if recommended by this doctor, my next step would be a speech language pathologist who specializes in voice disorders, what they're now calling a vocologist. So that would be the next step, but that diagnosis, I think, should be first. Go to the doctor.
So I have had students, okay, 2 students in 32 years, to be honest, but still, I think it happens because I've heard it from other voice teachers where they're having symptoms such as what you're describing.
Mhm.
The kind of symptoms that sound the alarm bells for voice teachers, the dropping out of the voice or the gunk that never goes away, right?
Mhm.
And they go to their ENT, and the ENT says, you're fine. Your vocal folds look absolutely fine. Go, Karen.
Well, so they might, because the primary problem, and in this case, I think what you're saying is the only problem could be muscle tension. So the doc who is not oriented towards the singer's voice, we are a different animal, will look and say, well, they look fine. There's no bumps. There are no swelling. There's no paralysis or weakness. So you're fine. Now they think they're nuts because, well, I'm fine. Why am I having this trouble? Well, it's like if any other muscle went out, your shoulder or something with your knee, your ankle, it needs therapy. So it's not that something has to be removed like a growth, it's that you need retraining. So I tell my patients and my clients, well, I'm like your physical therapist, but instead of your knee or your ankle, it's a different set of muscles and cartilages and tendons and ligaments. So that would be time to go to another doctor a voice doctor, a laryngologist.
Yeah, because it can be really sneaky, right? In that way, because it doesn't really present as some kind of damage to the voice.
Right, but you know, one size does not fit all. If it's not nodules or polyps, it's not, and everything's okay. It's not okay. And the singer gets a little bit, I don't know if the right word would be demoralized, but they're thinking, it must be me. Everything's fine. How can I be having this problem? And some professionals are not enlightened with that. So they need to get to a specialist who understands the singer's voice. There aren't as many as I would like to see, but they're out there. And fortunately for you, for me, in the bigger metropolitan areas, there are knowledgeable voice doctors because they're cultural centers. So where there are cultural centers, there are performers. And where there are performers, there have to be people trained to take care of them, I hope. So,
Yeah, but even if you don't live in a big city, if you're diagnosed, if your ENT, your local ENT says no, you're fine, but your experience of your voice is that it is not fine. A lot of times singers will sort of blame themselves, and because our voices are so wrapped up with our identity, right? We'll say, "Oh, well, there's something wrong with me as a person." Um, but what would that person do? The person who doesn't live in a big metropolitan area, what do they do?
well, I suppose nowadays, at least there is telehealth or telepractice to consult with a physician. I mean, for my profession, I can only practice within the states that I'm licensed in. So I'm licensed in California, New York. So I could telehealth see anyone, on the virtual airwaves from upstate New York all the way down to Long Island. So they have a little flexibility in that regard. But if they do need to have their cords examined, I suppose the next best thing would be either a university voice department, a medical school, hospital department. If they really want to be seen in person, though, it is possible that they would have to travel. But I think it's important. I've had clients from here who wanted to go to Boston to get a second opinion or Nashville to get a second opinion. A singer will go almost anywhere. So I think it's important to seek out the right help because if you know something is wrong, you know your voice, you know how it normally behaves, and now it's not behaving that way, you want to find out what's wrong.
If there is, okay, you talk a lot about vocal health and about maintaining vocal health when
Yeah.
you are, on your YouTube videos and and in your newsletters and stuff. You, of course, doing what you do, you would much rather have us just stay healthy than try to get healthy once we are, not in a great space. But
Absolutely.
but also you've sort of indicated from time to time, and in this on this subject too, that there are degrees of I don't want to say damage, but of affectation, right? Or
Mhm.
affectation, that and we can address some of these. We can look to our own vocal health right away before, I mean, maybe in tandem with or before panicking and seeking, uh, diagnosis of some sort. Am I saying that right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
That was
the
really
good old
convoluted.
fashioned stuff is still good. In other words, we'll tell patients drink half your body weight in ounces of water. They look at us with 32 ounces of coffee count. No, coffee is, we call it a dryer and a fryer. It's caffeine is a diuretic, it's going to make you lose liquid, and coffee is acidic. So if you have the malady of the 21st century, reflux, you are going to have a problem with that. So half your body weight in the good old H2O. And we're very big on steaming. So I keep one of these, the warm steamer, the hot facial steamer, and also what research has shown is even more effective, the Cool Mist nebulizer, which uses those little vials of saline, which is geared towards the same salinity as the body, 0.9% saline. It produces this lovely, not clammy, cool mist that you inhale directly onto your cords. And they find this gets into the respiratory system even deeper than hot steam. The molecules are smaller. So, yeah, absolutely. Get out the steamer. If you don't have one, get out a pot of water. Just be careful, breathe over that. Get yourself, this is called the vocal mist. We have it on our website store. It's a good product and it's warranted. That's why I really like it. So, yeah, increase your water, decrease your caffeine, decrease your alcohol, get some steam in there. Yes, you should be doing that before, during, and after seeing the doctor. I mean, don't wait, do it right away. I lost the sound again.
Sorry about
There you
that.
go.
I'm trying
That's
to,
okay.
I'm trying, I'm juggling a lot. Here we go. Let's do
I'm
that again.
impressed.
Heather Nelson says prevention is so much easier than rehabilitation. Thank you so much, Heather.
Yes.
It's so true. But we do tend to take our voices for granted, don't we? And so vocal hygiene, which is what you call hydration, this from the inside and from the outside, your steamer and your nebulizer,
Right.
right?
It's basically up with the good things, so water, steam, down with the bad things, caffeine, alcohol, anything that would trigger your reflux, trigger your allergies, that type of thing. Drying medications, be careful of those. So yeah, it's up with the good, down with the bad, always.
Okay. So Karen, what if somebody is on a drying medication?
It's tricky because
Yeah,
they have allergies. They have allergies. Okay.
right.
So it's a balancing act. If they're really suffering, they have to be on something. But if it's too drying, like some of the more old-fashioned allergy medications, their cords are going to be dry. Wet cords work more easily than dry cords. So if you have dry vocal cords, you're going to be using excessive force, and we're back to having muscle tension. So your doctor will have to balance out perhaps a prescription nasal spray with a less drying allergy oral medication to get the right balance for you. But tricky. Some of my clients are getting allergy injections because that's helping them so that they don't need so many oral medications that could potentially be drying. But tricky balancing act.
Okay, I'm going to say that again for people like me who are not speech language pathologists. Here's your student who has a situation of dry vocal folds for whatever reason. They are on medication, they are menopausal, they are whatever. Their vocal folds are dry. In order to compensate for that lack of moisture in the epithelium, in the outer, the folds, the outside of the folds, they are using their muscles in an too much. They're working too hard. They're compensating for that by working, and they are potentially introducing this dysfunction of muscle tension dysphonia. Did I get that right?
Right. In other words, dry vocal folds raise the threshold of pressure that you have to use to get them to vibrate. So the drier they get, and you mentioned some great factors that could cause that dryness. Also, dust, exposure to fumes. How about all the bleach cleaners that we've all been using, right? So all of these things can cause irritation and dryness. Now I work harder to get those dry vocal cords to come together and vibrate. And now I'm developing that muscle tension, well, dysphonia if it becomes a voice problem. So yes.
Okay, muscle tension doesn't necessarily become muscle tension dysphonia, but it can.
Absolutely, if you don't learn what you're doing. For instance, it would be better for me to hydrate more, breathe steam, use non-irritating lozenges, in other words, no menthol, maybe change my medication or talk to my doctor about it, rather than, well, I'll do all those things, but then I'll just push harder to get my voice out. Therein lies the problem, but who hasn't done it, right?
Yeah, who hasn't done it? I want to share something that Dr. Heather shared here. That you can go to NCVS and look up for vocal side effects of drugs, which is Thank you very much for sharing that, Heather, because that's a big deal. Because a lot of times they'll tell you what the side effects are, but not the side effects of your voice, just sort of the side effects that are going to kill you.
Right, and that's a very good resource. That's National Center for Voice and Speech out in, I guess, Utah. Um, so you just look it up and you can see all the side effects. It's a great resource.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Heather. And so Karen, we're coming to the end of our time, but you said you were going to share a couple of your favorite exercises with us today. Will you show us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I will. And let's remember that since we're all sitting in front of screens and we're all going like this, we should remember to get the shoulders back. We do a lot of exercises for that in my office. And tuck your chin in just a little bit closer to our necks, not craning it like, a turtle sticking his head out of the shell. So I have a couple of my favorites with me. Probably a lot of people are familiar with what they call the lax vox exercise, or blowing bubbles into water. Here we have an ideal resistance device. When we put resistance in the front, I'll go a little profile here, in the front of our instruments, it relaxes the back. In other words, when we put pressure by the lips, the vocal cords come together with minimal pressure, just touching, which is what we want. So we take a couple of inches of water in a cup. Oh, yes, I have a cover on it so I don't make a mess, but the goal is to make small, steady bubbles. So for a student who doesn't have good breath control, I might start without the voice and just work on steady bubbles. So I always show them, I'll put it on camera. Here's how it looks. And I tell them, I don't want to see old faithful geysers flying up. I just want nice, steady airflow. It's the only way you can see your airflow, unless you're standing out in the freezing cold, I suppose. Then we add the voice. And you can do scales. You can do unstructured sirens to stretch and contract the vocal folds. You can do 5-note scales, whatever exercises you like to use with your students. Do you have a bubble cup, Meredith? So we could try. What's a typical exercise you would use with your students, but now you're going to do it into the bubbles?
Uh, for these straw exercises, the exact things that you said: held pitches, mostly held pitches or slidey, as opposed.
Right, I like them.
Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
do pitches, scales, but usually I stick with sliding.
Right, and then as they become more comfortable with it, maybe a do, sol, do, just a very simple slide extending to your full octaves. But I mean, this just makes it easier. And I just attended an online course with Dr. Ingo Tietze and Kitty Vertolini, who practically invented all of this stuff. And they said the taller the column of water, the more resistance there is. So if the student is having trouble, less water, or simply pull the straw up a little. So it's only an inch or so in the water, that will make it easier. So skinny straws, more water, harder, more resistance. Fatter straws, lower level of water, less resistance. So your student can play around with that.
Yeah.
But I did promise you something very unusual today that many people may not have seen. And it's my version of a buzz cup. It's another resistance device. And I will show you that people used to throw out my buzz cups because, of course, they have a hole in the bottom. So I made it very personal. So I don't know if you could see that, but if you don't want anyone to throw out your buzz cup, draw a picture of yourself on it. So there's the little red-haired girl on there. And what I've done lately is put a straw into the hole to extend the instrument and taper the instrument. And basically, you fit it over your mouth. If it's too big for your face, you kind of do this, get some nice resistance, and vocalize into it. So for instance, you can use any vowel you want, and you can even sing lyrics into it. So this is great for working on a song that the student is having trouble getting their voice out in a relaxed fashion. Have them sing the lyrics into the buzz cup.
I can really feel the pressure coming back at me.
Right. When you feel that back pressure, that pillow of air coming
Yeah.
back in the mouth, you've got the effect. That's what's going to keep your larynx low and your vocal cords, they call it squared off. Instead of a direct hit, it's more like this.
Right.
And it's a gentle amplitude. It is not forceful. And they say our vocal cords learn this longer than we're just doing the when we're just doing the exercise. So it helps to refine the technique, I guess you would say, so that you're not using excessive force. So make sure you have a buzz cup in your arsenal of teaching tools.
Love the buzz cut. Buzz. I said buzz cut, like an army
Well,
haircut.
that too.
Like
Yes, the buzz cup.
buzz cup. Karen, thank you so much for all your time today. I know you're super busy. Hey, everybody, I just want to let you know that in the comments, my nice husband, because I couldn't do it while I was broadcasting, but he did this for me, and he put the link to Karen's website or her email list. I think your email list on in the comments. So you can just click on that to get on Karen's email list. It's actually a really good email list because she's all about helping people stay healthy. So so you can do that. And again, if you want the freebie, you can put Karen in the, well, it's a freebie. It's a link to Karen's great video about optimal speech pitch, which is great. Yeah. So put Karen in there. And oh, Christine had a little comment. Hold on. I'm going to share the screen with you now. Oh no, that wasn't right. Let's try that again. Buzz cup is cool. Thank you. That would be a hashtag that, Christina, because hashtag that buzz cup. And also, oh, Heather also thought that was cool. She will so be using this. Me too. I could actually feel it, Heather. It was really, really cool. I want to see if there's anything else. Okay, so there were probably other great comments, but I didn't want to interrupt you because it's so great that you're here. And I mean, you sound like you could just go on like this forever. And
you may have noticed I love what I do.
You do love what you do. You do
I do.
love what you do. Okay, so I want to, is there anything else I need to say? No, there isn't. So I just want to thank you for being here today, Karen. Thank you so much for your time and your intelligence and your awesomeness. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and your attention. And have a good week. Bye.
Thank you.